with the theme Justice or Else. And our friend Baba Ubaid from the Black Bottom, now the White Bottom. Greetings and good afternoon.
Jumbo and the Baragani Baba.
C. Jumbo and James Asante Baragani.
Brother Jeff and the comrades, let the circle be unbroken.
That's the goal.
2 quick points and then my legacy and landmark. Brother Jeff, when you were going back and forth about this, why blacks say what they say about each other. Mm-hmm. And individualism was the drug that brought Americans to spew these anti-black sentiments, because Baba Shomari and I think it was Brother Jeff last week, were discussing Pavlovian fixed time scheduling, and the byproduct becomes cultural schizophrenia.
Yeah, it was actually one of the callers that had called in. It was his first time calling in. He was asking, do we hit on the social psychology and mental health stuff? Mm-hmm. Yes, I can't remember his name, but he was a caller. It was like one of his first times calling in. He was the one who brought up that subject.
Well, fixed time scheduling is Pavlovian, and it is
saved by the bell.
An arsenal.
Right, that whole idea that we have to go to work at 9, the 9 to 5, the kind of European time clock that I tell people, again, it's just certain things we got to stop doing. Right? I'm going to add this to my list, because one of the things we take for granted now, and we don't understand how anti-human it is the whole idea that there are these daycare warehouse centers everywhere where you can leave your child as young as 6 weeks old while you have to go to work for $7.50 an hour, right? Mm-hmm. And it's kind of mandatory. It's part of the welfare to work fair kind of reauthorization, where if you were getting public assistance, you were, and everybody knows that the key to healthy identity development is the caregiver child attachment bond, right? There's just tons of research on that. And here you have these daycare centers that are designed to break that bond, because a mom has to go to work for minimum below subsistence wage labor, and in exchange she has to let somebody else take care of her children as early as 6 weeks. That's absolutely asinine and crazy. It's anti-African, it's anti-human, but we do it every day.
And it's that which causes, with that infliction, which causes blacks not to want to struggle for freedom, the maintenance of black culture. To make Baba Shomari's point earlier, we've had the young man, what's his name, Obama, been in 2 terms. Where's the collectivity that brought him a black agenda? There was one brother that said blacks are strangers to black unity. And I want to tell him that's poppycock and balderdash, as evidenced by the 3 migrations that have taken place in this country. The second one was so grandiose that it's still labeled the Great Migration, which created over 140 and over 147 or so independent black cities and towns, out of which came the 3 Black Wall Street.
Right.
The problem, though, here we go with the problem today, Baba Shomari, is in the face of eminent domain and white supremacy, blacks want to remain in Caesar's house, thinking that they'll be allowed to stand and be a man.
Right. I mean,
not gonna have it.
And again, that goes back to this conversation about what do we mean when we say liberation, because liberation means you're liberating or freeing yourself from the hand of something. But you can't engage in liberation if you still want to be controlled. Like if I still want to be on the plantation and eat some of what Massa's eating and dress like Massa and hope that Massa give me my salary, I can't work towards liberation. It's an oxymoron. And so we got to really have clarity of terms, and then those clarity of terms determines who's going to be on or off the bus or the train or the boat or whatever the mode of transportation is. But right now we're just having the terms at really a very kindergarten level, and in a time when it's getting very serious. And again, I tell people all the time, people got on me, and I thank you for your call, Baba. People get on me, but I'm a toll the bell as we hear bells banging in the background of the studio. Right? I don't know what that noise is. We better begin to do a critical assessment of the legacy that will be bequeathed, quote unquote, to us, or at least heaped upon us as a result of the first black president, Barack Barack Obama. And many of us predicted that by the time he was out of office, we were going to have boots on the ground in places where, not only what y'all call the Middle East, but also in Africa, the HBCUs were going to be decimated, that black people would be statistically worse off than they were before his presidency. And all of that's coming true. And the question is, will we continue to make excuses for that reality, or will we wake up? Because there's a chance that we could end up waking up too late. So we better start waking up now, because the bell is tolling, the clock is ticking, all that kind of stuff. The pedals to the metal and all that stuff, man. And we're not yet having the critically conscious dialogue, conversation, and challenges necessarily to say, hey, are our leaders actually leading us? Are they working on our behalf? Are we really working towards liberation and power and self-determination, or are we just kidding ourselves right now?
We got to have a spar off on that, me and you.
Yes, sir. We could do it without a doubt. You're going to need some backup, though. I'm going to let you know.
It's all good.
Let's go to T, line 2, North Philly. Greetings and good afternoon. T.
Hello?
T going once. Hello?
Hello? Yes.
All right, T. How you doing? Are you T?
Are you T?
T, you got to turn down your radio. I hear myself in your...
I hear myself in your...
All right, we got about 2 seconds and then we're going. Let's go to Monica, line 1, North Philly. Greetings and good afternoon.
Yes, Brother Shomari, I wanted to build on something that you said when you were talking about the children being warehoused and daycares and everything. I think if we're going to wake up, then if men are going to talk about that particular issue, that bond being broken, these kids being warehoused, then the men have to say, okay, well, what could the solution be? I'm sure every sister that has to go out and work for $7.50 an hour and leave her child somewhere else will gladly give any group of men the address of her baby's father for them to go and knock on that door and say, look, brother, our sisters can't be living like this and raising our families like this. What are you going to do? We need you. Get up, get dressed, get your sneakers on.
Definitely.
And come on out here.
And let's coordinate that, because I think that's a part of it that needs to happen. I mean, and any brother who knows me that I've been in front of in a group setting, that's part of the challenge. It's like, because part of what happens is we live in a society that's designed to destroy the black family. It's designed to destroy family, period, the black family in particular. So this whole 1996 welfare reform, Bill Clinton thing was designed. It's just another chink in the whole mythology, the Moynihan report before that, designed to do that. One of the things that's happening is that brothers have become complicit in our own destruction, right? And part of that call to raise up a standard of manhood is to say, yo, bro, hey, the reason that this is allowed to happen is because you have not gotten off the corner, you have not gotten off the bar stoop, you have not gotten off your hands and your butt to say, hey, I want to be a man in my community again. And when we talk about it all the time, the male role is the container. It is to protect the chrysalis. And when you've been remiss in that role, you open up the village to an assault. And we got to resume the front lines of that, man. And so I agree with you 100%. And whatever there's a mechanism to make it happen, if it's a way where you can get the sisters together and say, hey, sis, let's make sure we give out these 10 numbers, these 10 email addresses, and these 10 home addresses, and have a group of brothers knock on the door, it's come to that. It's that urgent right now.
I don't know if am I still on?
Yeah.
Because there's also another flip side is that, and anybody who owns a daycare knows that this issue could have been exploited, but, evidently the dudes didn't know that this was available. But for all of those women out there with children that have to work, men could employ those women and set up jobs where they don't have to be so separated from their children, where it can be comfortable for women to work. Okay, just like I had a daycare, I could have women who are on welfare to work come in and work in the daycare, bring their children, and get a subsidy for their pay. You understand what I'm saying? So,
I hear what you're saying, and my thing is, let's make it happen. There's a lot of ideas that come through the microphone on this and other shows on the radio station, right? The interesting thing for me that I'm challenged by is everybody thinks that just because I come up with an idea, because a caller calls in with an idea, because Jeff Jones said an idea, that somehow we're the sole responsibility for bringing it to bear. So I could go to my email page and my Facebook page, and everybody's like, yo, brother, I heard when you said on the show 3 months ago that we should do XYZ. When are you going to make them? Feel free to go push it ahead and make it happen as a village people. We don't have to wait for any individual iconic person to make a thing happen. If it makes sense to do and the idea is doable, make it happen, because we're in the red zone right now. Things are serious out there. So, I mean, my thing is, any way I can support it, I will try. But, there's a lot that comes through. One of the things that frustrates me is people always call or say we don't talk about solutions on the radio. We talk about solutions all the time. But if you're waiting for the people who are in the studio to be the ones who have to then go out and make everything, that's just not going to happen. That's what Village is about. Make it happen. If the idea makes sense, if the initiative makes sense, let's bring it into fruition. I thank you for your call. Let's go to Keith, line 2, North Philly. Greetings and good afternoon.
Yeah, greetings, Brother Shomari.
How you doing?
Okay. I'd like to take it back to the Black Panthers Party for the Self-Reliant.
All right.
So first of all, we live in a lawless community. In black communities, we live in a lawless community, actually. We know it's perpetuated by, outsiders that's bringing the guns, particularly Europeans, they're bringing the guns and the drugs in our community. But our own gullibility chokes us. So those who are selling the guns and the drugs in the community, they just work for outside forces that means they have an agenda to destroy us. So with that, and with that being said, for those who believe that these stories are not, like in the days of Noah, when the destruction came in the community, right, and also in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah, these societies had lasted a long time, and God was waiting for atonement from the people, which never came, right? So the morals of the people, right, had to be so demigrated, right, that it was these things that came to pass. And same thing with Nimrod or Nebuchadnezzar, right? They could have those horrible those evil kings rose because the society and the morals of the people have become so corrupted that they was able to rise up. That same thing was going on now. The morals in our communities is to the point where as though we're involved with everything as a creative.
But this is just this area for me where I just agree with you 159,000%. It's just we have no standards anymore. So when I say that one of my catchphrases, I like these things, I call them watchwords in honor, like Amilcar Cabral, who, as he was organizing the people's movement in Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde, they had the watchwords of the revolution. One of my watchwords is liberalism is the enemy of liberation. And the problem with black people right now is everything goes for us. We're so busy, even when you talk about, I'm gonna just step into the fray. When we talk about Black Lives Matter, right? And we can't go into any situation where we're having that conversation about black lives and black power and black organizing without all of a sudden, and we also have to include people of color, and we also have to include the LGBT, and we also have to include the women's right and the abortion rights. And it's like, If those movements are important, fine. I'm not going to make a value judgment about that. What I am going to say is, how come we feel like every time we talk about ourselves particularly, we have to include everything, right? And so this idea that for us, it's almost like I don't know what's right and wrong anymore, because everywhere I go, whatever people are doing is supposedly good. It's almost like that song, it's your thing, do what you want to do. I can't tell you who to sock it to. Well, yes, you can. That's what the purpose of the village is. That's what the social contract is about. There are some things that just because you want to do them, just because you're an individual, just because you have certain proclivities, just because you have certain desires, just because you were born a certain way, it does not automatically mean that that's good and let's go with it. There's some that's why you have a village, you have a society, they have rules. And one of the ideas is that we agree, in order to be a we, that there are some things about my I-ness I got to give up. I'm going to say that again because we ain't quite getting that. In order for there to be a we, there are certain things about my I got to give up. And if I don't give them up, the we becomes chaotic. See, if I is not willing to sacrifice for the we, then you have anarchy. And what the brother is saying, I agree with 100%, is that we're so busy trying to say yes to everything that we no longer have a standard, and thus we have anarchy in the village because we ain't prepared to call nobody out. Mug shouldn't be sagging. It's that simple. A grown man walking around with no shirt and his pants and drawers showing sagging, it's just out of order. Oh, this to calm me. I'm coming back. I'm coming back. It's out of order. And we keep making excuses like somehow that makes sense. Right? I mean, come on. At some point, we got to say, hey, there is a standard to manhood. There's a standard to black womanhood, black manhood, black youth, black institutions. There's a standard. There are rules, not just rules. There are expectations at a higher level of what we have been called to be and manifest. And hey, yes, you bro on the corner, you sis on the corner, you elder, you church leader, we're holding you accountable because our people need to raise the standard. In church, they talk about the purge all the time. I'm not asking or calling for a purge. I am saying that the purge is that, hey, those of us who are committed, who know better, let's raise the standard and let's begin to hold the village accountable to the standard. If you want to join this mellifluous dialogue, this somber, kind of cool-headed back and forth, feel free to call in at 215-634-8065. Again, that's 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900.